Mike, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be out working? Anyway, it's nice to have one person here in the house. Somebody that I know. Anyway, it's 5 a.m. here in the Philippines on what, Thursday? Thursday morning. The sun is about ready to rise. You're at work doing nothing. Well, that's always nice. I did 22 years of going to work and doing nothing. So that's pretty fun. Yes, I shouldn't be saying that. That actually isn't true. I worked for the first 3 or 4 years of my 22 years. That's about it, though. And once I got into the the swing of things, looked around and figured out how the bureaucrats work, then I just stopped working. Oh, no money, no honey. I know. You're gonna have to get Cora to start cranking out the lumpia. That's what Minnie did when times were tight. Oh, but since you're here, let me get you caught up on what's going on with the house. So now we're at the point where we're laying the gravel down. But as expected, when we were digging out for the septic tank, when we were digging out for the septic tank, we hit the water table. Of course, we expected to hit it around 6 or 8 feet, and we did. I had to go down and buy a sump pump. I had to go down and buy a submersible pump. Tim is here. Bobe is here. I had to go down and I had to buy a submersible pump to get the water out. But I ended up buying one that wasn't moving enough volume of water, so we ended up having to use the bucket brigade. Chrissy, Mama, what are you doing using a ninja channel? Nice to see you. So anyway, we have our work cut out for us. We're pouring the concrete today, the concrete foundation for the septic tank. And we decided, let's see, the new tank will flat out if you don't fill it up with water. Now we decided not to go with the poly tank. We decided that we were going to go with a traditional tank. And if you think about it, if you give it some thought, there's some obvious reasons why, and the low water table was one of them. So, but that being said, I have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to get that done today, get the foundation poured. So far we're about, I don't know, 3 or 4, maybe 5,000 American dollars into it. So there's no turning back now. I've got a 4-man crew at this point. I'm not sure. I think for right now we need a 4-man crew. We've got the fine sand that was delivered. We've got the cement, the blue bags. We've got a number 6. Interestingly enough, our tank here has not floated out. So I have no idea why. Oh, no, I do know why. Because they don't put a bottom on the septic tank. They don't put a bottom. So wherever the water level is outside, wherever the water table is, that's where the water table is inside the tank. And so, quite frankly, it never overfills and it never will float out of there because there's no bottom. Oh, you're in Western Canada. That's nice. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, if you put a bottom on it, of course it's gonna float out. It's just like a vessel, right? So, but that's not most likely to happen because that's not how they do it. That's not how they do it here in the Philippines. They don't put a bottom on the septic tank so that in case, I think it's so it doesn't cause any damage to the tank whatsoever, or it doesn't cause it to float. I really don't know, but I think it's genius. The environmentalists, it's their biggest complaint, right, about the Philippines is the fact that we don't have sewage treatment plants and the like. But one day we will. One day we will, doggone it. Nobody really knows where the waste goes once it leaves you here in the Philippines. There's no other way to do it. And so even on the plans, it says to drain line. It shows the weeping line coming out of the tank, and it's marked to drain line, and everybody knows there's no drain line. I mean, really. So anyway, I'm sure you're going to have to deal with it. Big cities have it. Newtown has a system, Cebu City in the downtown areas, where business is done. As more of these bubbles, start developing in the central business districts, they'll start improving the infrastructure, I would imagine. Folks, Griselda, I just posted a short video of me dancing. Why don't you, enjoying my retirement, why don't you go in there and take a look at that and see if you could share that one out for me. Tim, let me know what you think of me rocking and rolling, dancing in that video. Give me a like on the way out. What time is it where you're at, Tim? Hey, Joe, Buena Vista Dreamin'. What do we have? We have Mike, is that about a 9-hour difference, I think? Changing in a couple of months, isn't it? Have you had any UFOs hit the house or any meteorites? I had no idea, Mike. I was just watching it's 2 p.m. I was just watching yeah, I'm always rocking. It's interesting. I had no idea that every time we enter into the belt, one of the meteor belts, we're taking our life into our own hands. Yeah. I was watching a YouTube video that starts talking about how we take our chances, right? And the public is sold a PR bill of goods. No, I'm an insomniac. I'm having strange dreams about the end of the world right now. Mike married. God Repairs is here. Welcome in, God Repairs. Yeah, so that's what's going on in my life, and so I wanted to schedule at 5 a.m. Philippine time just to see if anyone would show up. And so I'm surprised that we have 8 million people in the house. Oh, you're in cooking mode. Good for you. Good for you. What are you making? Some Filipino food, eh? Anyway, yeah, I didn't realize that once we enter these meteorite belts, and did we really go to the moon? That was the other thing that caught my attention, We had a NASA employee, whistleblower, right? I don't know if you've seen that video, who gets on there, and I'm not saying I'm not taking a position. All I am is delivering the information. He is saying that it is impossible to go to the moon without fuel. And Elon Musk recently said that it will take 8 trips 8 shipments of fuel, that their largest rocket can carry in order to get to the moon. And as of yet, they still haven't figured out a way to get through the Van Allen radiation belt. Now, that kind of makes sense to me. You have two guys, one former NASA engineer and Elon Musk. Did we have one hit the moon? That's cool. I'm going to go look for that later. Inertia counts for nothing, Mike says. And that's what they sold us last time, didn't they? You could not. Oh, Tim, I got to tell you what's going on in the Dairy Queen here in the Philippines. I don't know if I'm going to get banned for saying this at all, but you used to be able to go to Dairy Queen here in the Philippines and buy a 39-cent ice cream cone, but they no longer stock the cones, and so they make you buy an 89 peso dish, sundae dish, and then they say, well, you could just have plain ice cream. So can you believe that? I think that I'm going to write a letter to Warren Buffett, who owns Dairy Queen, and I'm going to complain. So you cannot buy a 39 peso ice cream cone here in the Philippines because obviously they've been told don't stock the cones. But they'll be happy to sell you an 89 peso, which is what, $1.50 or so, dish of ice cream to make a sundae for 89. Well, I tried to get them to do that, Mike, and they wouldn't go for it. I finally got so mad at them. I said, I'm writing a letter to somebody. Writing a letter is powerful, by the way. I did it recently. Yes, exactly. Out of stock, sir, their favorite line. So watch what happens after I make this video, because you know what happened when I started complaining about Shakey's. I got a phone call from Shakey's in Manila, and they sent me, a week's supply of pizza. It was pretty funny. No, he probably licenses. Listen, but here's the whole thing. McDonald's and Dairy Queen and Shakey's and things like that, they want to be consistent, providing the same level of the same menu and the same level of service all over the world. That's the whole idea behind franchising. So I would imagine if they discovered this, they'd be very upset. Let me tell you the other story, right? Because it involves my favorite donut shop, Dunkin' Donuts. So here's what happens. I don't think that I've shared this with you, maybe briefly. They went, you know what? They're well trained, Mike. They're well trained. I could not negotiate with them. And finally, the manager comes over and says, what is the problem? I said, the problem is you don't have 39 peso ice cream cones, yet you're advertising them. It's right here. And she goes, well, we don't stock the cones anymore. Well, why aren't you? We all know why you aren't, don't we? And she looked at me and she looks around. She says, there's got to be a dang cone around here someplace. And she starts opening drawers and she finds an old stale cone in the corner. And she grabs that and she fills it up and she says, here, that'll be 39 pesos, please. And so I go, thank you. And I bit into it and it was like a stale piece of bread. It was just terrible. Of course, I was happy. I didn't need to eat the cone. I just needed the ice cream. Try to get a fish fillet out of McDonald's in the Philippines. Oh, but now you have a chicken looking sort of thing that they're giving you, right? Right, Tim? Okay, let me finish the story about the Dunkin' Donuts. So we go into the Dunkin' Donuts, right? And I order a medium or a large coffee. I order a large coffee. Oh, sorry, sir. We don't have fresh brewed. I go, what? Go, sorry, sir. We don't have fresh brewed. I said, might I inquire as to why? And they say, because we ran out of coffee filters. You what? I said, but there's a Dunkin' up the street. And before I could get the words out of my mouth, why don't you go borrow some coffee filters from them? He said, yes, you're welcome to go down the street. I was pissed. So I get on the email and I send Dunkin' Donuts a letter, an email. Right. Yeah, but like I said, yeah, they're, oh, really? Canadian? Oh, that's what's wrong with them. They're using inferior product. All right, so there's no what do they call it? Modified organisms in there, right? The stuff that makes them yummy, right, Mike? The ones that grow men's breasts. There's none of that stuff in there, right? Just joking. Nanang is here. Oh, Nanang Sexy's in the house. Not as much fake meat in Canadian meat. Yeah. Well, I did learn something. I want to finish the Dunkin' Donuts story. I wrote them a letter, right? And they started badgering me at the corporate office, right? When did this take place? What was the time? What was the day? What was the name of the firstborn that was working the counter? And I go, have you people lost your mind? I said, why? I gave you all the information. Now, why would I have a copy of the receipt that shows this receipt transaction, the time when, wait for it, I wasn't able to make a purchase of a cup of coffee? And now you guys, I said, we have a Bose and a Starbucks opening up around the corner. You really want, being that you're a coffee shop, you sell coffee, that's your commodity, that's how you make profit. You really want to go there? Do you really want to go there and keep badgering me, trying to accuse me of not telling you the truth or whatever it is you're trying to do? No, you run a crappy operation. Get a grip on reality, or Bose Coffee and Starbucks, they're just going to take your business away like it wasn't even there. That got their attention. Hello, Mr. Dan. Thank you so much for your email. I am the Vice President of Marketing. Thanks for reaching out. We understand that you're a fan. We went into your social media. You like Dunkin' Donuts, don't you? I said, I did, till I can't get my morning cup of coffee in there because you guys stupidly ran out of coffee filters. And you don't have the good sense enough to go down the street and borrow some from the other Dunkin'. Well, I'd say in 6 months, Canada will cease to exist as its own country, Mike. Not without borrowing a whole bunch of money from Bank of America. No, they didn't. They didn't send me anything free. As a matter of fact, what they did do, though, as soon as I walked in the next time, right, I said, do you guys have brewed coffee available, or did you run out of coffee filters again? And as soon as I said that, you had 2 or 3 people running all over the place in the back, making sure that I was happy. Perry Shaley is here. Good morning. Good morning from the Philippines. Oh, anyway, I can't stand it. But however, I do have great news. Shakey's Pizza has improved 1,000%, in Bye Bye City. 1,000%. We went in there the other day. There's probably going to be, or I think I did a short video. The pizza was delicious. We bought one of the 18-inchers, one of the big ones. It was delicious. I have no complaints. They did a great job. The service was great. But I looked around. There weren't many people in there during lunch rush hour. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there, I don't think it's a sign that the economy is tanking. Do you guys? It could be. Anyway, stuff like that does irritate me, but I think the Philippines in general, I'd like to say that uh, they're caring more about it because people move around, people move from Canada, the United States over to the Philippines. They go all over Europe. Europeans come to the United States. I mean, they want continuity, they want the same level of service. For the most part, the same menu, but I understand the menu's altered, to local taste. And so that's why they have gravy on everything in McDonald's, gravy sausage patty, gravy chicken patty, gravy burger patty, gravy on gravy, stuff like that. Oh, you might be staying longer than planned uh, due to a flight attendant strike starting Saturday. Oh, they're not making enough money? Or is that the one that's affecting a lot of the airlines? They're getting testy. Billy is in the house. Billy, brother from a different mother. How are you, my friend? How's everything going locally there, huh? Yeah, I should start doing skin commercials. Definitely. I should get the what hasn't shown up here in the Philippines in terms of skincare. I think the cold cream, right? What is that stuff? Maybe it is here. Maybe it is here. I know they sell that black sea salt thing, right? Billy has said Sacramento's awful. I know. I keep hearing about it. I have friends who are still suffering there. Mike Mary says, Tim, don't fly Air Canada. Even I don't fly. Yes, thanks so much, Mike. Mike, I can always count on you for saving me, right? It's a Pond's cold cream. I haven't seen that here yet, but I've seen just about everything else along with the American commercials. Let's see. Flight attendants don't get paid when the plane is on the ground. That is not right. If I clock in, I should be paid if I'm getting there. Not only that, I want to get paid for transportation from home to the airport. Doggone it. I want all my benefits. That is not right, Tim. I was going to talk a little bit about the simple life. Something caught my attention. I ran into an article. It was a small study, a very small study out of New Zealand. Yeah, I know what you're saying. New Zealand, Dan. It's New Zealand. You got happy frickin' people all over the place in New Zealand. I know. I know. But you want to find out some interesting studies that are done you go to studyfinds.org. That's .org, studyfinds.org. And I get a lot of enjoyment reading some of the articles. The one that caught my attention was one by a guy named Steve Fink, titled "The Simple Life Really Can Bring Greater Happiness, but for Unexpected Reasons." And then it was a small sample study of 1,700 New Zealanders that were surveyed. So these are survey type studies, right? On this particular one. And it says, and I like this because they give everything in a nutshell, right? And then I started thinking as I'm reading this article, is this the reason why I'm so dang happy here in the Philippines? Because it's a simple life. But I don't live the most, you know, I don't have a simple existence. In other words, but I yearn for one. I do yearn for one. Like I would be okay living in a nipa hut or a Baha'i kubo somewhere. I don't mind having to shovel sand out of my house every now and again when it floods, or buckets of water, stuff like that. That's pretty simple, I would say. The things that most of us go through around the world, not us because we're Westerners. I'm talking about most of the rest of the world. We're talking about other countries, most other countries, as a matter of fact. In a nutshell, that's why I like to go in here, because they just bottom line it for me. Have you ever seen me like bottom line it for me? You know. Let's see. Dan, New Zealand's not happy. The Moro people have lots of crime. Oh, I see. Well, maybe that's why they're seeking a simple lifestyle or simpler lifestyle. Let's see. Researchers surveyed 1,643 New Zealanders to explore how voluntary simplicity relates to well-being. Oh, Jerry's here. So they're talking about well-being, right? I'm not talking about well-being as it relates to health, but it's interesting. Sharing resources, skills, and building community showed the strongest direct link to higher well-being. Now, that makes sense to me, I mean, when I read about barn racings that they used to have in America where everybody would get together in the community and help them raise a barn, that's a sense of community and well-being, isn't it? I mean, the knowing that you have neighbors that you can count on to help with things, that you could trade also for what they grow, for what you grow, wheat for cattle, cattle for wheat, stuff like that. And it talks about material simplicity, frugality, and self-sufficiency still contribute indirectly through the overall voluntary simplicity lifestyle. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what that means. Someone needs to explain it to me. Simple life, according to Mike, needs to be defined because it's different for each person. Yeah, well, that strikes me here as being true that they didn't really define it. What does it mean? I think Tim is probably on the right track. I think that it's related to stress, and stress negatively impacts your health. What's next on here? Women experience greater well-being benefits than men. Maybe that's why they live longer. Effects were consistent across income and age groups. Oh, that's interesting. I'm going to have to look a little bit closer at the actual numbers for that one. Well-being improvements were most evident in life achievement and community connection, with smaller gains in relationships, health, and living standards. And I think that that is probably what is behind why Filipinos have smiles on their faces all the time, because they know that when push comes to shove, their relatives are going to be there to assist them, not necessarily with money, but they will give them moral support. They'll give them sometimes a place to lie their head on occasion. They will help them with raising the roof on their house, those types of things. They could depend on them. And that's probably why they're always smiling, even during times of calamity, when typhoons come through, when floods come through, and Manila disappears into the sea, that sort of thing. By the way, the sea probably is going to reclaim the low-lying areas of Manila one day, science says. But I think that's one of the reasons why they're decentralizing government in the Philippines. That's right. You need to get a permit, Mike. You need to get a permit. And that I also thought of that, Mike. I started thinking to myself, man, you used to be able to build a house here without having to, involve the government in some way, without having to go down and get a permit and pay the fees and those sorts of things. Yeah. And now it's all just like the West, except it takes longer. All the bureaucratic red tape. We still don't have our building permit to build this house. We still don't have it. Yeah. And nobody seems to have an answer as to why we don't have it, except the head engineer's on leave. Well, I'm not sure that, to be fair, I'm not sure that has anything to do with it. People go out sick, they go on vacation, they do different things. I'm not sure that stops government gold from continuing to work, because after all, they still need to to be viable, they still need to be out there collecting the fees, right? So yeah, I'm not sure that that's the reason why we haven't seen the permit. But anyway, the other thing about what's going on with the land, it's built up almost. We're leveling it right now with the gravel. So that's a good thing. Permits are money grab for government. I'm not so sure. I mean, there's certain things that uh, I think it's regulated for a reason, Tim. I'll be quite honest with you about that. You wouldn't want me to lie. And that is that they just want to make sure that no one, probably they don't care much if you get hurt, if your house falls down and kills you, but they'd rather not have it kill the people around them, the innocents that are around them, right? And also, truth be told, the permit fee wasn't that great. It wasn't, a terrible fee, because in the States, if you wanted to build a new house from the ground up, Miro is here, La Disla. If you want to build a house in the States, you're paying tens of thousands of dollars in permit fees. Quite frankly, it doesn't excite me. Mike says, I found out the reason why Filipino people smile all the time is because it means hope. Yes, hope. And I've talked about it before, Mike. I've talked about how Filipinos have hope for the future and people in the West fear the future. That's a big difference, We're living in the West in a society of fear, and we're living in the East with a society of hope for the future. It's never hopeless, right? They always have hope for the future. Our house in my Manjuad, no permit needed. Well, here's what I'm finding out about that, right? For a and I don't know what kind of a house it is, but they do tend to look the other way depending on what kind of a house you're building. They tend to look the other way. The more native materials you're using and things like that, the more traditional of a house that you're building, the more they tend to look the other way. But maybe the municipality is set up differently there. I'm not sure. I think electrical and plumbing needs to be inspected by professionals for safety purposes, but they are now. They changed the rules, Tim. I don't know if you know this or not. We now have to hire a licensed professional electrician and plumber and get it inspected and approved. So, but electrical here in the Philippines and other parts of Europe and around the world is way easier to understand than in the West. I could probably wire the entire house by myself if I were so inclined. It is not, it's 220, it's 240. It's the easiest wiring in the entire world to do. I could do it in my sleep. No offense to all the licensed electricians out there, right? We're saying, Dan, you're full of it. I can do it. I've done it before, so I know I can do it. It's the 120 that I can't stand. It's the 120. When you start wiring a 120 house, you know what I mean? It's a nightmare. I cannot do it. I won't do it. I won't do a 120 house. Hollow block steel rafters, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 kitchens, and a living room. Sounds like you probably should have gotten a permit for that. But listen, all truth be told, Mike, truth be told, the permit for this house that we're living in came way after it was built, like 2 years after it was built. So remember, what ended up happening here was there was no place to go to pay the fees because everything was shut down. Nobody was allowed to come into the offices and work. There were no people from the outside could not come into the public offices. There was no way to submit plans, get approvals. Everything was shut down. And so it couldn't happen that way. So you were stuck. what did they want us to do? For 2 years, we can't build a house. For 2 years, we can't do anything. So, and then one day the auditors showed up. Yes, they did. And we ended up paying the fees. So, I mean, but we, they had a smile on their face when they were collecting up the money. So what can I say? And we went to them. They didn't have to find us. We went to them and we said, you guys should know that on that empty lot, there's now a house. And the very next day, here comes 5 or 6 or 8 auditors, right? And they all have a job. They're very efficient. Those guys were very efficient, and they're measuring, inspecting, they're surveying. And that is when we discovered that the private survey that we had done on it was incorrect. But we sorted all that out. The neighbor made a deal with us to sell us I think it was like 2 or 3 meters off the corner of the house. He was very kind. He's a very kind man. Yes. The hydro guys stopped at nearest pole. Our electrician hooked up. Yeah, it's pretty easy to do the electrical work. I'm not sure why we need a licensed contractor for that. And it helps that the barangay captain is your uncle. Well, as long as you have somebody who has some pull, I would say that you're in good shape. Mike, a one bedroom, 1 CR kitchen and dining room would be ideal if I lived in the Philippines. Yes, that's all you need, really. That's all you really need. People in the West, for example, this catches my attention. Jerry, since you brought this up, right? I'm a very simple person, not simple-minded. Well, yeah, sometimes I am. But check this out. Actually, most of the time I am. But check this out. So we have a very small wet room in our master bedroom. It's not really a master bedroom because it's small, right? It's just a regular sized bedroom with a wet room. And Mike K. Joe has seen it. I don't know if Mike is working or he's still in the chat. But so in the West, so I was laughing because, because I get the comments, about why would you even bother? Why would you even bother building a small little wet room? Well, in case I have to go pee in the middle of the night, that might be a good reason. But so it's a shower CR and it works just fine. And I started thinking about it. And in the East, most people, well, our house is small to begin with, but in the East, people spend most of their time outdoors. They don't spend it inside the house. It's hot in the house. It's hot outside, right? Too, but it's more comfortable at times outside than it is inside, unless you're going to run the air conditioner all day, which sometimes I do. I will admit, if it gets too humid or something, I'll be in the AC for about eight hours per day. Thank you, Anna Mae. Welcome in. So anyway, good morning. How are you? Are you getting up, making the kiddos breakfast, getting them off to school? Anna Mae? You need 2 bedrooms because if you have wife or maid for her to sleep. Yes. Well, the maid could always share the same bed. Right, Jerry? Wink, wink. Anyway, what was I going to say? In the West, we make our bathrooms like they're spas. And I started thinking about this. This is to escape your reality. You create an environment where you can escape. You don't hear the kids yelling at you. You don't hear your spouse yelling at you. You just go in there. You get in the spa bathtub with little jets that blow little water jets up your bum, and you enjoy your life reading a book, listening to music, or watching the TV that you put inside your spa-like master bathroom. There's no such thing unless you're staying at a 5-star hotel here. I mean, they had that at the where is it, at Seaside, at that hotel we stayed in, the New Star. They had all that set up. But that's like fantasy land in of itself. That's the whole thing there. It's like fantasy. It's like its own fantasy land to keep you happy. They know you're there short term. They're going to make it as comfortable as possible. Dan, that's why I have a bathtub in our separate CR. Yes. And so that's how we do in the West. And it's very rare, unless you're a Westerner, to find that here in the East, quite frankly. Quite frankly, it's very rare. Mariah is here. So we just go in there, do our business, and get out. We're not spending all day in there. No one's going in there spending all day. So I could appreciate where Jerry is coming from that perspective, that you're keeping it simple. You're keeping it simple, which is the whole theme of this particular live stream. And with that, I believe, it's my own belief, that you achieve happiness. Why would I want to escape the yelling and screaming of my children, or my grandchildren for that matter? I want to embrace them, love them, hug them, hold them, kiss them. Why would I want to escape my wife? Why would I want to escape from the person that I care about and love? No, I would be having her, if I lived in a spa-like environment like that, I would be having her join me in the tub. Do you have a tub for bubble baths? No reason for that. No reason for that. I can't get in and out of it anyway, except that I enjoy taking baths when we're on the road and we're in a 4-star hotel, let's say, and it has a bathtub, and that's my. It's sort of a weird thing, right? Okay, it's Dairy Queen and the bathtub. Those are my rewards for being a nice guy. And people laugh at me when I say that. Oh, they laugh at me when I say that, but it's true. I mean, that's really, I believe that. I believe that. Down here, people love their 100K plus houses and drown in debt. Yeah, and you want to avoid it. That's the whole thing. Here it's, they're starting to loan money to Filipinos on signature loans and doing it through the app and getting them so that they become more enslaved to the man. But they've been doing just fine without all that stuff here in the Philippines. So why can't it just continue that way? We need a motorbike today. We need a new house today. We need a big screen 100-inch TV set. And then I've been in people's houses where the television set is occupying the same size of the entire wall of someone's house. And then the karaoke machine is going full blast. Everybody's got a great big smile on their face, except when they don't pay and the people show up. The Guido shows up to repossess the equipment. Yeah, but a lot of people don't do it that way. A lot of people actually rent the equipment for special occasions, and so that's the way you do it. You save up, you have a special occasion, you rent it. Don't go into debt over silly things like that. These are expensive enough. Oh, I just showed you my phone number. Those are expensive enough, the cell phones. And if you want most people get their entertainment value out of the cell phone. And it doesn't matter if it's a cheapo one or an expensive one. Jerry, when I am home, I have 3 sisters cooking, cleaning, and laundry. See, that's the way you live. That is a good life, Mike. That's the way I'm all for that type of structured living. I always have been for it. All this stuff about, when my kid turns 18, I'm kicking them out of the house. Well, that's old school thinking. No, you capitalize on their presence is what you do. That's what I believe in. You capitalize on their presence. And how do you do that? You dole out responsibilities. Each one has their own responsibility. You don't start scaring them by saying, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, get the hell out of my house, and get yourself a regular $50 per hour paying job like I had when I was a kid. I mean, you see how silly that is? That's just plain stupid. And that's why I like the Filipino way of life. A 50-inch TV wouldn't even fit in my bedroom unless I placed it on the ceiling. You see, that's what I'm talking about. But they do. See, they manage to do it. My driver rents out a videoke machine. That's how you do it. You wait for that occasion. You get everybody together and you say everybody kicks in a little bit, if they can, you know. And then you go over to the equipment store and you rent it and then have a good time. Take it back in 24 hours. That's all we ask. We don't live in the lap of luxury around here. I know some of you think we do. Mike says in the West, teens need to pull up their pants. Exactly. Yeah, if you pull up your pants, then you're a winner in my book. I don't want to see your boxers. I don't want to see what kind of boxers you're wearing. Not really. Tim saying, Jerry, where will the mirror go then? Exactly, Jerry. Where are you going to put them mirrors? Eh? Oh my gosh, we're having so much fun here. All my friends are here. Anyway, that's it. That's it. It's the simplicity of life that attracts me, but it's changing. And it's changing so fast that it scares me because I just wanted a soft landing. That's all I was looking for. You know, I was looking for a soft landing, you know, and it started out nice. You know, it started out nice. And the next thing you know, all the folks show up to the party. And that's where I had said that, oh, Bye Bye City is turning into Dumageddon. You know, truth be told, I've never been to Dumageddon. I don't plan on going there. But you have a lot of Westerners, a lot of foreigners moving in here in droves because of the affordability of the land. And they're coming in here and building palaces and monuments to themselves because they could afford to do it. It's something, I understand it. It's something they couldn't afford to build in their own countries. But when they sell their house, they build their dream home here. You know, when they sell their house in the West, bring that money over here, they start building their dream home. I understand it. I'm not a fan of it, but I understand it. My idea of luxury is running hot water shower. I know, I know. I know. I mean, that little hot water heater that we put in that wet room, it changed my life forever. One of the things that I almost could not live without. Let's see, if Low Roller lived in the Philippines, he would have someone help him manage a peso Wi-Fi business. Oh, but Jerry, what happened to Low Roller? Didn't he get rich on Bitcoin? I mean, what happened, what he said would happen actually did happen. And so I just want to know if he held on to his Bitcoin. And every time I've sent him a couple of messages saying, hey, you must be living the high life, right? He never answers me back. He doesn't answer me. He ignores me. Oh, I know. I'm an easy person to ignore. Yes. Why not, Dan? Dumageddon City is a nice place. Because they fly the American flag. I mean, there's so many Americans. You know, I like having a little taste of it. You know, but I don't want to be in the thick of it. You know, I don't want to run into old dog, new tricks. You know, hanging out at the coffee shop. You know, I'd rather not. You know. I'm sure it's a lovely place, and there are a lot of lovely places in the Philippines without a whole bunch of Americans. I have nothing against Americans, by the way. It came out sort of wrong. You know, it's just that I don't want to hang around with them for any period of time, not even a week. you know, the best I could do is fly into Dumageddon, say that I've been there, and then leave. But anyway, this is becoming that sort of town, is my point. So let's see. South Jerry says, I'm not subscribed to his channel. I stopped watching Low Roller when he stopped making restaurant food video reviews. Food, man. Food video reviews are the thing, aren't they? I don't talk to any of them. Oh, you don't? You don't go up and say you're starstruck, John YouTube channel is in the house. Mayong, good morning, John. How are you? Welcome in. Mayong, Boontags. So, yeah, that's what scares me a little bit, quite frankly, is that, okay, but that makes me sound like I'm escaping from something, right? And so I probably am. There's a lot going on in my conscious and subconscious mind, and I try to bring as much of it, I try to grab as much of that's hidden back there to the forefront so I could deal with my fears and my things my fears, basically, and so sometimes I just think that I'm a scared little man, a scared child, but that urge for seeking adventure is starting to level out a little bit. The kid-like part of me, is starting to not evaporate, but it's leveling out. It's settling down. I did ask why he wore a red hat. Oh, you did. That's interesting. A lot of expats that are getting married, they're now thinking about going back to the United States so that their wives can get their green cards and so that it would be eligible for their survivor's benefits. I've seen a lot of videos where people are talking about this. And on one of the expats' Facebook pages, they keep talking about a 5-year rule, but I called the Social Security office and I asked them about that, and they said there's no 5-year rule. There's no mandatory 5 years that your spouse has to spend in the United States, And so I said, where did that come from? And they say there used to be a 5-year rule. That is what they're telling me. So I don't know if I'm getting accurate information about that, Chrissy Mama, or not. But you can go to a U.S. territory if you wanted to, and you could establish residency and end up getting a green card, I would imagine. I'm not 100% sure, but it's expensive to live in a U.S. territory. In some U.S. territories is a better way of saying it. And so I'm not sure that it would make any difference if you went to Guam as opposed to just going back to Texas someplace, South Texas, and setting up a home there so your wife is able to obtain their green card, because they do have to have standing. That's absolutely true. I talked to Social Security about that. You have to have standing. And of course, why I know all this is because we went through this with Minnie. He said, okay, the goal is we go to the United States, you become a naturalized citizen, and then you come back to the Philippines to reclaim your Filipino citizenship. And so everything worked out as planned. Everything worked out as planned. I could share. Isn't that interesting, Mike? I think that is true. What your statement is here, that you see a lot of I think it's true. In fact, I don't know a single liberal that lives here. They're all conservative, right? They're all conservative Republicans. They're Republicans that are way far right, and that's interesting to me, but maybe not. Maybe not when you look at the history of the relationship between the Philippines and the West, it's sort of unique. And I think that people miss that. In order to understand the relationship, you would have to know a little bit of the history of the Philippines. And so when you consider that, it starts making sense. Tell those Filipinos to stay in the Philippines. Trump be deporting everyone but his wife and the wife of. Well, it's not really happening. Here it's an interesting thing, right? But one thing's for sure, whether you like it or you don't care for it, he's only here for another 3 years, and then he's gone, and that's it. And so, I would be more concerned about who comes after him as opposed to him. They all say the same thing. They want a conservative wife, and then what do they end up getting, Mike? What do they end up getting? Did you end up getting a conservative wife or a liberal wife? Politically, we don't talk politics, Minnie and I, not very often. Of course. Well, no, that's constitutionally. Yeah, that's ridiculous. He's even said that. He's even said, I like to rile the public up. I like to bait. I like to, what's it called? What is that term again, Mike? I like to gaslight the public. And that's obvious. Oh yeah, of course, the name of your channel. I Have a Beautiful Woman, exactly. And so that's kind of like, he likes to do that. And so I just laugh every time I hear something. But, I have a few conservative friends, and pretty much they just send me crap all day long. It's like if it reminds me of that song from The Wizard of Oz, If I Only Had a Brain. All you have to do is take a few minutes and do your due diligence before you send crap out, and then you can't be a parrot. And no, Trump is not the second coming of the Christ. Right? I don't believe so. I don't believe Trump is the Messiah. So all you people who are out there who are telling me that Trump's the Messiah, I don't think so, right? And so people, they insist that he's a man of the people. They insist that he's for the common man. And boy, oh boy, I don't know what you're smoking, but let me in on that secret. Oh my gosh. So, come on, folks. Come on, folks. I could say the same thing on the other side of the ledger. I'm a centrist for sure. So I take each issue and I critically evaluate it. But critical thinking is a skill that's missing in the world in general, I would say. But some cultures, they thrive on it. There are some cultures that thrive on critical thinking. They turn out to be the best at doing certain tasks, right? And I could think of them, but I won't mention them. But it's clear as a bell the reason why they're progressing, and some countries are falling behind. You have to take a moment to evaluate, what it is that you can't just take everything at face value and blurt it out like you're a parrot without getting all the background information. Just can't do it. You can do it, but you're going to look like a fool most of the time unless you're talking to another conservative. Many of them, Mike, Beto O'Rourke is one of them. Who are what? Who are in trouble? Oh, who's in trouble? There are a lot of conservatives that are in trouble too for doing different things, and they're not they're not innocents. Trust me on this. I wish I could share a story with you. I don't want to get sued. That I have a personal experience. I have a very personal experience of a very good friend of mine that I went to college with, who ended up, he's a very intelligent guy. He ended up at Northwestern University, and that's Northwestern University School of Law where all the action is. And he ended up becoming an administrative aide for a congressman and a senator from California. And the stuff that he revealed to me shocked me. It shocked me, and I can't repeat what he had to say, but it's very, very much along the lines of the controversies that exist today. And he talked about that there is very, very little separation in terms of the way that people act outside of the public arena when they get into a private place. Let's just leave it at that. And so he gave it up, even though he was being groomed. Do you understand that word, groomed for something? He declined their generous invitation or their generous offer to someday be somebody important in government. So they come looking for you. If they detect that you've got something they're looking for, they start grooming you at a very, very young age. And I think a few people have talked about this, how they were approached. They were approached and said, "Oh, you're destined for greatness." And they spin all this web, right? Trying to get people to believe that, yes, they are the chosen one. And it comes along the line of what Mike just put up there. Most politicians sell their soul. He would have had to have in order to advance. He would have, Mike. And he said, oh no, it's not me. I'm not doing it. Yeah, commitments must be made. Secrets must be kept. And so I don't know what he's doing. I'm going to have to look him up to see if he's still around. He would be retirement age about now. Very, very intelligent guy. Very intelligent guy. And so it's like, I think Dan Bongino said it right. He said, if you saw what I saw, remember he said that? He said, it has changed me forever. Can you imagine Dan Bongino? He said, what I've seen thus far has changed me forever. And that's more what it's about. And I will propose to you this. I will suggest to you this, that there's a very, very thin line between the parties, a very thin line. If you think of it more like a soap opera, an acting gig, they have their responsibility on this side, they have theirs, where they script things, they script them, and they say, okay, let's go this way. See, we can get the American public to swallow this. We can get the leaders of the free world to swallow this. See, if we do it this way, that's closer, I believe, to the way things really work. And so that's why I take a closer look at it. I don't leap. 3-party system wouldn't matter. It could be a 10-party system. It still wouldn't matter. I mean, look at history and look at the fall of the Roman Empire. Look at other nations that have collapsed, and in antiquity, and you're going to see the same thing. And so why would it be any different? Why would it be any different today, is what I'm saying. Why would it be any less barbaric than back in the day? Why would it be more about you than, let's say, exploiting the natural resources that they have to offer? It's not like that. It's all about stepping on you. It's all about, I'm rich and you're not. It's all about, get out of my way. But they do it in the nicest way, even enlist your help in accomplishing their goals. So, I mean, that's what I believe. So I explain it to people, and they say, well, and you know what they say to me, They're not interested in my take on anything. And I have no better answer, for you than they do. That's the other thing. So I don't sweat it, I don't sweat it. I couldn't sit here and say that their way is better or my way is better or their way is better. I just can't do it because I don't know. I don't know. I could only take the look at it that through that process of critically evaluating it, and then I'll make my own decision. But it amazes me how many people there are in the world that don't do that. They don't consider it. They don't consider, is there a possibility that it could be this? Is it a possibility it could be that? I mean, it blew me away on the whole tax thing in the United States. It blew me away that everybody thinks that, we're going to, tariffs are going to replace federal income tax return. We're never going to have to pay them again. Well, I think that I have not rejected this idea, 100%. It's got to account for a certain percentage of the collected revenue, but it doesn't account for 100%. And so what's the price to pay for this? When Mike, when you're talking about tariffs, what is the price that we're going to pay for this? Somebody is going to have to pay for it, and most likely it's going to be the consumer. But then when you add a national sales tax on top of that, then you're paying tax on inflated dollars. Basically, you're paying tax on goods that are coming into the country that are inflated due to tariffs. Then who really is paying the debt down? Who really is paying the fair share? I mean, who's paying the majority of the share of taxes in that scheme? And I haven't decided whether this is a good idea or not. That's the bottom line. In other words, but I take a look at the whole thing. That's why we need new blood when addiction. We learn that if we don't make a change in our lives, then there won't be a change. Exactly. And so will there be change in our future? I don't think in my lifetime. Being that I probably only have 10 years left or so of life on this planet, I don't think that there's enough time for me to see that change. But I think that if you're young, like Anna Mae, you may see it. You may see something happen, but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you what that is. Just that people will eventually, hopefully, they'll eventually see, what's going on, and then they'll want to change things, But all that being said, I haven't decided whether this is a good idea or not. I just know that the initial statement that he made is not true. You can't take the tariff money and make people, you can make people believe that it'll pay for 100% of the revenues collected through federal income tax money, but it will not. It only replaces about 40%. And the rest of the money has to come from somewhere else. And so how do you raise it? Well, you would have to raise it through a national sales tax scheme, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. So, but the whole thing is, I don't hear very many people talking about it. So, but it's to consider, you have to consider, is this a reasonable approach? His main motivation, I would imagine, would be to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service. And I'm kind of all for that. I don't think we need one. I think we need a setup that's similar to the way the Philippines operates. Mike says, Dan, have you noticed counties with high cost alcohol and cigarettes, they have better healthcare infrastructure? No, I haven't noticed that. You asked me if I noticed, and I don't. I haven't. Jane is here. Raid going on. Thank you so much. God repairs. So no, I haven't noticed it. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on. So Great. Where do they get the money when everybody stops drinking and stops smoking? Because that will happen because we can't afford to. We can't afford it anymore. So that will happen. So then where's the revenue going to come from then? You know? Where's the revenue going to come from? Because people stop driving and they can no longer support infrastructure improvements through the gasoline tax. There'll be a new tax. So a national sales tax where the federal government doles out the money the same way they do through federal income tax, that might work. So I haven't said that, I haven't critiqued it to the point where I don't like this scheme, right? Maybe I've given some people the impression that I don't like this, but I haven't decided. I haven't decided. It could be a workable plan. I don't know. I just don't know. Because as you continue to point out, Mike, tariffs has been tried before, but there were a lot of things that were very, very different, back then. Electric cars are the only vehicles, no tax on gas available. Yeah, but Mike, here's another thought. Here's something to think about. Let's say that the electric cars, they go to a subscription only service. And so you can have an electric car, but you're not allowed to own it, not buy it in the way you can a traditional car. So instead you can rent it, but you never have full ownership of it. Not like a lease either. It's a month-to-month rental. So you don't even lease it, right? Maybe you'll lease it. I mean, if leases were available, then they could sell that lease on the secondary market. So it makes sense. But they don't really want you owning it because they want to be able to punish you if you do something that they don't like. I'm talking about the people in charge, the local government. They'll come to you and say, Mike, you didn't vote the way that we wanted you to vote, and so we're taking your electric car away. See what I'm saying? In other words, they don't want you to own it. We're going to a subscription-based society, or we're moving that direction, it seems to me. So, but will it work? I'm not sure it will. I'm not sure it will fail. Well, see, that's the other reason why it won't work, because most people can't afford an electric car. So if they want to go all electric, they will rent it to you and say, okay, so, what's your current payment, on your gas guzzling car? You'll say, oh, it's $350 or $400 per month, let's say, and that would be low. That would be low if you look at the stats. And then they say, okay, we got a car for you that you could rent for the same amount, but it's a rental. It's a monthly rental, but we'll take your gas guzzling car in on trade. You will have no more responsibility for having to pay that monthly note, and you just replace it with this car that you will never own, where you pay $400 per month. So, yeah, of course, Mike, you bring up an excellent point. I'm always happy to have you in the chat because you bring up these great points, and that is that car ownership, as Mike's pointing out, right? I don't own a car. I don't have to worry about car insurance or a car note. I save $800 a month. Thank God. That's all I have to say, because you will get so much more enjoyment out of life by not doing it. If people would just sit down and do the simple math, I'm not being condescending, I'm being realistic, then they will figure out in a lot of cases that taking the ride share is cheaper than, for all that they do, they're going to math it out, right? They'll find out a combination of taking public transportation and the ride share is cheaper than car ownership, particularly when you consider liability. Peter, it's very simple. It's because when the stream is over, you want to flush it down the toilet because it's worth absolutely nothing. So that's why that's there. When we're all done here, you just flush it. And so yeah, so those things, they interfere with your simple lifestyle. They interfere with your quality of life. Yeah, that's what I mean. And so I had it when I was in Sacramento. I used the train, the light rail system. I used it all the time to commute to work. And then would drive the car occasionally, like on Fridays when you wanted to get it, when you were gonna call in sick in the afternoons to get out of there, especially payday Friday. And then I would drive my car on payday Friday so I could get home real fast to enjoy the rest of my afternoon. Yeah. Thank God we don't have smell-o-vision. One day we will. You'd be surprised what kind of smell people are into, Peter. It's good to see you, by the way. Mike, I think we're going to explore that. I think that you have the topic for the next live stream, talking about transportation and car ownership and things like that. So, and electric cars, of course. So, everybody, that's about a wrap for today. What else did I want to say? Oh, tomorrow night, right? Philippine Day and Time, 6 p.m. Don't forget, we're going to have the weekly Gcash giveaway. And so be there, be square. If you're in the Philippines or not, you have a chance. 3 people will have a chance to win pesos 333, which is better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, as my dad and others used to say. So don't be late. 6 p.m. Friday, Philippine Day and Time. See everybody later. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.